All right. Hello, James and Matt. Tell people out there about your short, Wrecked a Bunch of Cars, Had a Good Time.
Sure. My name is Matt Ferrin, and I'm here with James P. Gannon.
Hello.
We're the co-directors of the short film Wrecked a Bunch of Cars, Had a Good Time. It's a short film, documentary film about demolition derby drivers. Takes place in Durham, Connecticut, but honestly could have happened anywhere.
Amazing. So, what were these characters? They're human beings, but what were these? So let's say that. What were these human beings like to work with?
Yeah, we make that mistake all the time by calling them characters.
Yeah.
They're real people.
Right.
But everyone's a character in their own right. Sorry, what was the question?
What were they like to work with? Tell me about these people.
Sure, yeah. They were great to work with. I think we showed up with being a little trepidatious, a little nervous because it is such a insular subculture community of people that do this. And we just weren't sure how us as outsiders were going to be viewed and, treated. But they welcomed us with open arms and were just really willing to talk to us, share their stories with us. And you know, we talked to as many of the drivers as we could, and they were all really friendly and welcoming. Yeah.
Yeah, they were great. Including the people running the Derby. They really just like welcomed us in, gave us full access. They didn't really have many questions. They just kind of had us sign waivers that were like, if you get hurt, it's not our fault.
That's funny. That's great. And what made you want to tell this story?
So we have a feature narrative film that we're trying to make that's about a demolition derby driver who gets lost in the desert after he crashes his car and he only has like a case of beer to survive off of. It's kind of like Castaway meets Mad Max with like Coen Brothers kind of weird like details and comedy. So we kind of went out to film the Derby as sort of like a research mission. And also while we were there, we're like, well, let's just make a short documentary, see if we actually do get enough footage and we find a story to make a documentary, which, thank God we did, but we only shot for 2 days, so we weren't really sure.
Okay, okay. So there will be a feature-length documentary on this topic.
Well, it's a narrative feature. It's actually like
Okay.
something we wrote. Yeah, it's a script. So we're trying to make that movie, but after dipping our toes into making this doc, there's some discussion about possibly making a feature-length documentary about this as well.
A companion piece. So you could do a documentary short, a feature, and a full doc.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
The whole thing.
oh, wow. All right. Geez Louise. And are there other maybe documentaries on this subject that you saw that you could recommend to other people?
Yeah, there's a great documentary that's just about one demolition derby driver called Speedo
Okay.
that I want to say was maybe made like 10 or 15 years ago. I believe it's in like Long Island or
Yeah, somewhere
yeah.
New York or yeah.
It was on, I think it's on PBS, but it's a feature. I think it's like an hour and 10 minutes. And that movie's great. I would definitely recommend that. I can't think of any other.
There's actually, I think that was maybe part of the reason that we wrote the story about Demolition Derby Driver, why we thought it would be good to make a film about it, because there's really not that much out there. And we felt like it's just such a cinematic world, all these cars crashing into each other, the smoke at night and the dust, everything. It really just lends itself to film. So I think not that like we're the only people to think that, but we were just like, there's room for more.
There's an Evil Knievel documentary. I forget what it's called, but I was getting a bit of a vibe similar to your project as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Formula One documentary, I'm blanking on the name, Senna, I think it's called.
Oh,
In the world of, if you're into the world of, motorsports and automobiles, that movie is captivating. It's a documentary. There are a few other things, and it's not all about cars. I think, a lot of the films that we love as documentaries are not about any specific topic. It could be about anything, but it's about the people that they focus on that make it so interesting.
oh yeah. And Would you say there's like a message behind this, or messages, or something deliberate you try to impart? Is it sociological? What's going on there?
I mean, I don't think we're trying to pass on any sort of message. I mean,
Hmm.
if someone gets something out of it, I think that's open to the viewer to interpret any sort of meaning. I mean, I could see it, uh, resonating with people who feel like they don't connect to certain things, but do feel connected to this weird subculture, where all these people are like very inclusive. But I don't think we're trying to tell anyone what to think. I think we're just kind of giving people a snapshot into a world that they might not know exist. As much as we're making it for other people, one of our first rules when making something is like we need to make something that we like. We need to make a movie for ourselves. So, if people like the movie in the same way we like it, I think we've kind of done our job. And, the way that we just kind of dip in and dip out, it leaves a lot of questions. And I think those questions will entice people to like seek it out and go see a Derby live if they're really interested. And seeing a Derby live is way different than watching our movie. It's really fun. We're not really actually car guys, but we happened to go to our first Derby a couple of years ago, and it was just so much fun and so interesting, and just seeing all these different people that it kind of like burrowed into our brain, and the idea of making something about a demolition derby driver has been marinating in our brains ever since.
Yeah, tell me a little bit more. What are these events like in person?
Yeah, I mean, the one we've been to a handful at this point, and they tend to, not exclusively, but they tend to be at like county fairs or, little localized, smaller localized events. And, there'll be like a carnival often, and, the midway, or, different games and things going on, biggest pumpkin, or, those kind of things. Um, and it tends to be usually like in a little dirt field that they wet down so that the dust doesn't get too kicked up, and that cars have better traction in the mud. And it's just usually a square or round or oval area where they put concrete around it so that the cars don't jump out of that area. And it's either sort of stadium like seating, or a hill sometimes it's just people to sit down on. And they tend to go through heats, so it'll be a bunch of different cars. It ranges from anywhere, sometimes it's like seven, sometimes it's up to 20 different cars go at it at the same time. And then, the rule is the last car running is the winner of that heat. So as long as a car can continue to drive or move around, then it's technically still part of in the race, or the heat. And then once it's down to the last one, that's the winner of that heat. And what they usually do is they'll have several of those heats, and then the winners of each of those heats will then compete for sort of the grand prize, which is not a whole lot of money, but it's kind of the bragging rights of the whole thing.
Yeah, these people are not in it for money. It's the glory, right?
It's got to be. I mean,
Yeah.
we met one of the people in our film, um, does it all the time. They go on the circuit. They go up and down the eastern seaboard from, Maryland up to top of New England, and they do it on the weekends or as much as they can. So I think for them it is a bit of a, I don't know if they would call it a career, but it's more than just a once and done kind of thing. Um, but spoiler alert, that person wins the in the our film, and they won, I think, 800, $900.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Not
not bad
bad.
for a night of work, but like you
No.
also had to put a lot of work to get to that point. You had to have a car that can be destroyed for it. So
Yeah. I think the money's just like the cherry on top,
yeah,
really.
yeah.
Okay, so what can you say about working with each other? What's that like? What's it like to share the glory?
We hate each other.
Bunch of
Um,
nerds.
no, we've been friends for like, I don't know, 25 years, 30 years, something
Yeah,
like that.
more.
Just kind of have a shorthand. We've been making short films together for 15 years or something now. So whether there was times where I was making something that just I was directing, and there was times that Matt was making something just that he was directing solo. And we'd have each other there on set as just like a right hand, person who's ready to jump in and kind of knows what your vision is inherently. So it's good to have been connected to someone for so long because you kind of look at things in the same way, but you also know each other's strengths and weaknesses.
All right. And tell me about the TIFF experience.
TIFF was great.
Yeah.
We had never been, I'd been to Toronto a few times, but
Hmm.
it's definitely, I mean, we've been to a bunch, well, James has been to a lot of film festivals. I've been to a few. And it was like probably the largest, like the grandest scaled film festival. It really felt like the most of the city was aware that it was happening, which is in some cases you don't, we went to a few other film festivals where it's like very localized. This theater this time, but up and down all the theaters in Toronto were, participating, and it felt like kind of took over the city for the 10 or so days that it takes place. And there's at night there's all the parties for different production companies and stuff like that. And we got into a few of them, but not all, because we don't know everyone there. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was great. I mean, we saw a lot of films. That was kind of like
Yeah.
the most exciting
Oh,
thing for us, is that we got the pass, so we were able to go and see all these other films, which was great.
Yeah. It was cool. I mean, like TIFF is a giant festival. So for us to premiere there, and then our second festival right after that was a Fantastic Festival in Austin, which is this more genre leaning festival, but also one of the most fun festivals I've ever been to. It's like very inclusive. It's all at one theater, but they really know how to like put on like a big grand show. So it's nice to have these kind of different experiences that are fun in their own individual ways. And now we're waiting on other festivals, to get back to us. But we're going to be probably in the festival run for another 10 months, I'm assuming.
geez.
Yeah.
We hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Well, James and Matt, thanks for your time. I had a good time chatting with you today about your short, Rent a Bunch of Cars. Had a good time. Do you have a final thought you'd like to conclude this interview with?
I was curious, how did you wind up with the Ennio Morricone title of your podcast?
That is a lot of story, sir.
Well, I'll have to follow up on that some other time.
Okay, no, I won't be a coward. I'll give you a condensed version because maybe people are wondering that. So it's I was originally, this is a radio show, and I
Okay.
actually played soundtracks.
Okay.
So there it's totally appropriate. And
Yeah.
then I started this YouTube channel to migrate content over online, and then I stopped doing the radio show. So it kind of makes no sense now. But YouTube doesn't let you change the name, and there now
Okay.
you know.
Okay. That's good. Thank you. That
All
was
right, take care, guys.
all right.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks.